me the wrong way.
Okay, so I have this theory that COVID was a portal into a new age of some sort, where that's dominated by digitalization, remote work, AI, online dating, and digital nomadism to a certain extent for people who can do it. And I met a lot of digital nomads, and there's this like wanderlust dream of being a digital nomad, and I think it is very enriching. You build your personality, you experience different cultures, you have access to all these places. They're cheaper than the salaries. Generally, you're making salaries in a Western country, and you live somewhere down south or somewhere where the cost of life is smaller. So there are all these great advantages, and then there's some disadvantages, and that's why I believe digital nomads are traveling for about 4 or 5 years, and then they stop. So. Yes. So the disadvantages. So I'm gonna name a few.
Why are they stopping?
So one big one is isolation and loneliness, and incapacity to have long-term relationships with friends or romantic relationships.
Yeah.
And eventually they get just tired of it. Yeah. So I think most people are digital nomads for about 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And then they stop unless it becomes like a full-blown thing. And I think there is another really important thing, and is that you got to be really good at your job to not be in contact with other coworkers, because if you're kind of okay, your job is gonna not be so good. But if you're really, really good at what you do, then you can afford to have like this Zoom kind of relationship with everybody. So I think good, solid digital nomads are really good at their jobs.
Yeah.
And then there is a whole spectrum of people who are more or less good, and then they lose a job to get another, they lose a job, they lose a client to get after another client.
Yeah.
And some of them end up broke. A lot of them end up broke. And then they start hustling, they get into crypto, they get into different types of schemes. I've seen a lot of those. Poker players in Playa. I went to a restaurant with like 5 people. They were like, oh, I lost my bank card yesterday. All of them. Yeah. In the same time. They just went broke. Yeah. So what do you think are like the positive, the negatives? Did you get lonely? Did you get sick of? Why are you here? Why are you in Montreal?
So
why did you stop? Yeah.
I didn't stop.
You didn't stop, but you're in Montreal.
I reduced it.
You reduced it. Okay.
So my MBA is in person.
Oh, that's
and I did decide to make that sacrifice. It's something I just always wanted to do.
Okay.
And I was
Why
like,
are you doing an MBA, by the way? Because it seems like
so
there is less and less value in the world.
So when I left Tokyo, my job forced me to travel. Then I got a remote position. So that's when I went from being a frequent business traveler to being a digital nomad, where I could work from anywhere, literally, and then eventually an entrepreneur. So I had that journey, and I was much more lonely when I was doing business travel. The difference between the loneliness and the negatives that I hear about, I associate that much more with when I was traveling for business. And the reason is I was put in the place designed by someone else for a purpose.
Didn't have a choice.
And
Didn't have the freedom to choose. Yeah.
Exactly. So I appreciated everything being paid for, and having my per diem, missed that. But the one of the big moments where I was like, I think I need to change this, was my 37th birthday. I was in Vietnam, and I had forgotten it was my birthday. And,
no way.
And when I...
You forgot it was your birthday?
And I'm
the day off?
Hotel, and on my hotel, I just got back from a conference. Just gone back from a conference.
How tired were you?
And the hotel clerk downstairs knocked on my door and brought me a cake.
Oh, wow.
And I was holding this cake.
She's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. I was going there 3-4 times a year. So they knew me. Anyways, and so I'm alone in this room with this cake. I was just like, how many airplanes have I taken? I had taken 87 airplanes that year.
It's like a serendipity moment.
It was just like a kind of a revelation. I was like, okay, so what are my priorities? I was like, I love traveling. I love this, but is this traveling? This isn't what I wanted. And so I made this conscious decision to switch into a work from anywhere job and get into that industry, et cetera.
Do you have any tips on that front?
Finding work that way?
Indeed.
Now I'll switch to my recruiter hat. But I will say this, something to what you said before about, are you good at your job and are you this?
Yeah.
you can have everything you want, just not all at once. My favorite podcaster, Scott Galloway, says that, and it's a mantra that I find
Scott
myself.
Galloway.
I love.
Yeah, he's great.
Professional crush here. Prof G. So he says that, right? And I think this is a really great instance of that. So a lot of I have a younger sister, a younger sibling. She's 27 now. She just turned 27. And so 16 years difference. And she's like, eventually I want to be remote. I want to this, that. But she was looking for her first job. She just graduated about a year ago. And I sat that girl down and I was like, no, you do not go remote. You go in office, and for 3 to 5 years, you fucking learn.
Kill it. Yeah. You'll learn. Yeah. You develop an expertise.
So so these, when I meet people who are like, oh yeah, I got my first job, I was like, you are not going to get far. If it, like, maybe on an entrepreneurial level, you can't. That I don't want to, but on a salaried level, the way that works, you learn so much from being in a space and that human connection, that networking. Mm-hmm. So if you're new to an industry or you're new to a position or both, I definitely would push for a in-office / a hybrid kind of model. And it doesn't mean that you can't travel with that, right? It doesn't mean you can't have conversations where you're like, hey, it's winter. Do you think I can spend 3 weeks here? Mm-hmm. And one of the things I did when I came back from Japan the first time, I made a conscious effort for a year to travel Canada. And I went to every province. I went to Yukon, spent time there.
Any favorites?
Yukon. Yeah. 100%.
Michael lived in Yukon.
Love the Yukon. Yeah. I had a friend up there, high school friend, and it was so amazing. It was the true Canada, so hospitable. Yeah. And I spent time in Iceland for a while. So cool. And I much preferred Yukon.
Did you see lava?
Did I see lava? Yes.
Did you see Northern Lights?
In Yukon, yes.
Cool.
Not in Iceland. So anyways, but Yukon, definitely over Iceland, the whole thing. Loved it. It was such a great experience.
And
went back 3 times.
I imagine.
Went back 3 times. No, it's not cheap. It's actually expensive because of the freight, right? The cost of goods getting there. Anyways, so making that conscious effort. So all to say, that loneliness element, I'm actually struggling. One of the disadvantages right now that I'm having is relating to especially women who are not digital nomads. Yeah. I am struggling big time with this. They
have a different worldview.
They have a completely different identity, right?
That's interesting.
Not just like motherhood or spouse or partner. But you find those women as well. I've met many mothers on the road. I've met many partnered women. But just like that like what they would consider this like instability. Mm-hmm. And then when I travel with them, so in recent years, I've had those friends ask me, well, can I travel with you? Can I meet you in Israel? Can I meet you in Mexico? Can I meet you here? And I'm very clear with my boundaries, right? And I'm like, look, I'm pretty independent. I get a cell phone card. Like, And then when I wake up early and go for a coffee, you did not wait for me. I need to walk alone. And I was like, yeah. You could have woken up with me, or you do not have to come and have coffee. But this bitch, when she wakes up, she's having a coffee.
Exactly.
You're independent. Okay, so when you travel with them,
you're not doting on them.
You're not handling. You don't want to babysit them. Basically.
So at this point, I no longer do that.
Good.
You can meet me there.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can meet me there.
But I'm not traveling with you.
But this bitch is alone.
Yeah. No, I feel you on that. I learned that lesson.
And there's a difference between alone and lonely.
Yeah.
Got it.
And so then, and the loneliness, and when you travel alone, you are way more open to new experiences, taking risks, being uncomfortable with starting a conversation. Not something I'm usually uncomfortable with, but most people. I hear it's hard to start a conversation.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Well, traveling gives you that.
Traveling, it so pushes you to make those conversations and like, hey, what's up?
But also people are far more open. Like here, if someone tries to talk to you on the street, you do not want to talk to them. But in another country, you see a foreigner, you're like, hey, can we be friends?
Yeah. Or but I think that's also about your energy, your body language, like not but the person is more open, like that you're facing, your eye contact, your shoulders, etc. And you're asking questions where you're seeking connection. Whereas when you're comfortable in your community and you have those pillars of communities, you may only be seeking out information from new people. Going to your question of why I'm doing my MBA, there are many reasons why, but one of the reasons I did make that decision is when I moved back to Montreal, I was like, I need to create a community for myself. I have been gone for over 10 years. And I still have my friends from high school and CEGEP that I love, and they will always have that part of my life, but I need different kinds of friends here. And one of the greatest part of my MBA, I have lots of
networking.
Pros and cons. Well, yes, but like actually feeling now that I'm starting to actually have a real community here of different types of people who I never would have met before. Nice. And I'm very grateful for. Yeah. So that was, but I'm also learning law. I'm taking a supply chain class. It's awesome.
So how long